Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ling Ma. I'm the instructor of Chinese. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker today, who is going to talk to us about a coherent and seamless sequence of essential concepts and guidelines that language faculty must know. This is a subject in which we should all be deeply interested because it provides an overview of delivery modes for online teaching and highlights essentials for creating a successful online language course. Our speaker is the Daniels Family, NEH, Distinguished Teaching Professor and Director of the Institute of World Languages at the University of Virginia. She's an award-winning professor who has received many accolades in recognition of her contribution to Chinese language education. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Miao-Fen Tseng.
Thank you for Ling Ma, Professor Ma's introduction. I think I can share screen right now. Okay, here we go. Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank Professor Ma for inviting me, and I'm truly honored to be part of the UAB Jameson Lecture Series. Secondly, I'd like to thank you all for making yourself available this afternoon. For those of you who are teaching online, either as a primary or supplementary mode as instructor, or students taking second language courses as TA, whatever, I know very well what it means by Zoom fatigue and how important it is to be away from the computer to get rest and recharged. In this regard, I thank you again for being present today, Wednesday afternoon. And before I start to share essential guidelines for online teaching, I'd like to give a little bit background information about UVA STARTALK, standing for University of Virginia STARTALK, as today's talk is partially from English federal funded program. I have been so fortunate to continue to receive federal funding, STARTALK, from the US government to run, experiment, and create a dream program that I have had in my mind since 2008. Since 2008, we started to create Chinese teacher training program and also student learning program for a straight of 8 years. And when we ran a program in 2015, I started to ask myself, do we want to do something different, or do we want to continue to do that? Because when the program was created, we trained teachers how to teach effectively in a four-walled in-person class. But we decided to take big risk by transitioning to online teaching. So the year of 2016 marked a big important historical juncture, because we decided to train teachers how to teach online synchronously. That program features synchronous teaching. So we have been running that kind of program for 4 years, and we were amazed at the outcome, because number one, the students who participate in online learning, all of them 100% continue to stay until the end of the program. That was amazing. We thought there was a miracle that we collaboratively work together and make it happen. Before we ran the program in 2016, we thought that because of online learning tend to have a very high dropout rate. So we set a goal as having 75% students continue to stay in the program. But we couldn't believe that the student completion rate was 100%. That says something about the quality of the program. Yeah. And after 4 years of experiment, then last year, 2020, we did not run any program. I will tell you about what happened and what we have done this year. And in terms of student program and student learning outcomes, every year we wanted to test something to explore the unknown. At the end of the program, let's take the year of 2016 program as an example. We asked students to complete a program survey on their satisfaction, on their overall learning experiences, based on a 7-point Likert scale. 1 referring to strongly disagree, 7 refers to strongly agree. And as you can see here, in terms of their satisfaction, the mean of the questionnaire is almost full, as close as 7. 6.9 is for I would recommend this course to other students. And overall, I'm satisfied with this course, received the mean as 6.84. In terms of another question, I would take a course like this again in the future. That has a mean as 6.77. They are almost full. That is very exciting for us, particularly right after we made such a big decision and also to transition from face-to-face teaching to online teaching. And in terms of students' language performance, we asked students to complete a language performance test assessment at the beginning of the program and upon the completion of the program. And when we compare the difference between pre-test score and post-test score, the t-test shows significant difference. So again, that increased our confidence level in running online learning program for students. If you are interested in more details about student program and the design implication of the program, please refer to this article that was published in 2018 in the Journal of Computer Assisted Language Learning. Let's see. And in the previous slide, shared with you students' learning outcome. Now let's look at what happened to teacher trainees and what did they say about their experiences in participating in the summer intensive program. Here is a quote that I got from one teacher. She was a high school teacher holding an MA degree. In her teacher reflection, she mentioned that this program has transformed me to be a significantly more impactful teacher. Isn't that nice? So exciting and so encouraging. She also continued to say that I improved in applying backward design methods in lesson planning, using 100% of talking language and authentic language materials in delivering a lesson and creating student-centered interactive activities. She has mentioned several keywords that determine whether online teaching could be effective or not. Yeah, that's wonderful, including backward design and the use of target language and authentic materials and creating a student-centered classroom. Yeah. And as you can see from this slide, since 2015, right after we transitioned to training teachers how to teach online, we have published 8 articles that reported and analyzed teacher trainees, qualitative reflection and also their self-perceptions. So we have qualitative studies and quantitative studies. We also summarize our experiences and our gains and best practices based on the research-based STARTALK program in several different journals. I believe that you will have access to this PowerPoint because the talk is being recorded. we were so grateful for last year's pandemic in some sense. All our plans got changed suddenly. And I was able to use the time to concentrate on my writing and profound thinking. And I invited my technology coordinator, Dr. Gao, to work on this book with me, and we got it done. This book was out last month in February. Dr. Gao is the recipient of AFO 2017 K-12 Online Teaching Award. Without her contribution, this book would not be made possible. Dr. Gao contributed 2 or 3 chapters on technology. And so, as I mentioned, last year, there were no STARTALK programs running because of pandemic. And this year, I'm so delighted to inform you, let you know that we have successfully concluded national recruitment. Every year, we recruited 12 teachers. And this year, we have 6 PhD degree holders and 6 MA degree holders of these 12 teachers, either teaching at college level or secondary school levels. And some of them are full professors and program directors or coordinators. That's so exciting, incredible. And they are going to receive intensive summer training and also participate in post-program teaching action in this coming fall semester. We have secured funding. So the funding will be enough to pay their graduate credit tuition. Everybody would enjoy 3 free graduate school credits. And the program features the fulfillment of individual program professional goals. And now I'm going to share with you what we have learned, what we have been enlightened after running several years of STARTALK online training programs. The first thing we have learned is that we found that effective principles for face-to-face and online teaching actually are identical, except for principle number 7 that has greater emphasis on incorporate instructional technology tools to achieve instructional goals. The remaining 6 principles are actually applicable to both face-to-face, blended, hybrid, and online teaching. The first principle is 5C, national standards, and backward design. And I believe that since most of us are language educators, you are quite familiar with this concept. Principle 2 is to facilitate student-centered classroom, and 3, use a target language to generate comprehensive input and productive output. Number 4 is to integrate cultural content and language. And principle 5 is to adapt and use age-appropriate and level-appropriate authentic materials. Principle 6 is to conduct performance-based assessment. And no matter whether we are doing online teaching, blended, hybrid teaching, or which type of instructional mode, as language instructors, we also always want to ask these 5 overarching questions. The first question we want to ask is, were instructional objectives fulfilled? And the second question, did students generate expected language output? That's the evidence-driven outcome that we are all looking for. The third overarching question, what was the total amount of time for student talk? Conversely, number 4, what was the total amount of time for teachers talk? If we look at question 3 and 4, what we are looking at is we hope to see more teachers talk, and most importantly, quality, actually reversed. We are looking forward to seeing more students talk than teachers talk. And we not only look for quality, but also quantity. In a typical language classroom, if we see more than 50% of time that students are practicing, presenting, and talking, assuming they are fully using the time, so the quality will be produced quite good, then I think that's the ideal setting we are looking for. The question 5 is, what was the total amount of time for student-centered activities? Again, we hope that at least 50% of classroom time could be devoted to student-centered activities. That sometimes is not easy to achieve, particularly when you are on your day one, start a new lesson. But as your teaching days goes toward the end of each unit, they'll be more highly likely to see more student-centered activities and tasks. And the second enlightenment I'd like to share with you is that we found that achieving satisfactory learner-learner interaction is so important, particularly for online teaching. As you can see from this table, first of all, that shows the meanings of 3 ways of interaction. The 3 ways of interaction refers to learner-learner interaction, learner-instructor interaction in the middle, and on your right, learner-content instruction. That's, first of all, look at the meanings of these 3 types of interaction. As we see on the right left column, we see learner content interaction has the highest mean, 6.53. And learner instructor is in the middle, that's 5.84. And learner interaction received the lowest mean, 3.88. This tendency and these figures, is something that we presented at the 2016 STARTALK Post-Program Conference, based on the program that we experimented in 2016. The tendency of having learner-learner interaction being the lowest actually concurs with the recent literature findings for online teaching. So it's actually not counterintuitive at all, and it's probably easy for us to imagine why this happens. And now let's look at what's the difference between synchronous and asynchronous interaction. You can see from this table, when we look at the synchronous and asynchronous interaction in each type of interaction, we see that the mean of synchronous interaction is normally higher than the mean of asynchronous interaction in 3 ways of interaction, except for learner content interaction. For learner content interaction, we see 6.55, 6.51. These are quite similar, about the same mean. So how to interpret these figures? I think that, for students who are either learning online or face-to-face, no matter what, they still need to frequently interact with the content, either videos, handouts, PDF, Word documents, homework, assessment, taking tests from the LMS system. So that, I think, explains why students need to frequently interact with their learning materials to retrieve, download, and digest and study. But for learner-learner interaction, that is lower. That is the lowest. That gives us some valuable insight on what we can do to work more and work better on enhancing asynchronous interaction, especially learner-learner interaction. In the following discussion, I'm going to give you 3 examples to show how we could do to enhance learner-learner interaction for online teaching. And that also works for blended, hybrid, and face-to-face teaching. This slide shows that students recorded their favorite video to introduce themselves. It's a task self-introduction through favorite videos. And what I ask students to do is that I ask them to create an individual favorite video to introduce themselves before class. And when they joined the Zoom class, they were grouped into a different size, roughly a group of 3 or 4 in a breakout Zoom. And then in the breakout Zoom, they watched the favorite videos that their group members created and discuss, interact, and engaging discussion. The person that created the favorite video to introduce himself or herself also raise questions to check on their learner peers comprehension. So this activity creates opportunity for students to get to learn more from each other, from their live discussion spontaneously, and from watching their video again. And after class, I asked students to watch videos again, to watch 3 or 4 additional videos that are not the same as the videos that they watch and discuss in the breakout Zoom. And one more thing to do was to create their second video to highlight the most interesting or memorable aspect of a peer's self-introduction. This task happened, and this task was completed during week 1 and week 2 in a course that I taught last semester. And so I think fluency was greatly improved in this way. And one of the major purposes that I designed tasks in this way was that I wanted students to learn from each other. Learning from online setting, it's so socially isolated. And I have been making great effort to think very deeply, creatively, what we can do to enhance learner interaction. That's one good example. And the second example I'd like to share with you is something that I'm doing right now for my course this semester. It's still underway. It's not finished yet. Basically, I asked my students to post their solutions to air pollution in Beijing. And my class has a total of 9 students. Okay, so we see 9 posts. Each post has a short paragraph. I did not want them to do more than a short paragraph because I did not want them to feel overwhelmed. And the next thing I will ask them to do is that each individual learner needs to post questions, comments, opinions, or add their appreciation to each pilot posting. That means that one individual learner will receive 8 separate postings from the remaining peers. Yeah, I think this is a good task that motivates students. They are required to do it to read and interact with learners through pilot posting. This is part of midterm, and students have not posted anything to their peers posting yet, but I'm looking forward to great comments and good results. Yeah, the major purpose is to foster, as you can see, student-centered peer learning. And the third good example I'd like to share with you is what we did after 2016 STARTALK student learning program was finished. In 2016, we were very excited and happy with students' comments because we got 100% completion rate in terms of student participation. Everybody stayed till the end of the program. For an online learning program that offered 0 credit, students learned based on 100% completely voluntary basis. So being able to achieve 100% completion rate is so amazing, incredible. However, there was one thing that I was not satisfied because now we wanted to continue to think creatively and how to enhance and strengthen learner interaction and peer learning. And after 2016, we did this. We tried this afternoon interactive group review activity in the following 3 years, 2017, 2018, and 2019. I had my program assistant lead this discussion, and students freely sign up for different time slots in the afternoon. It's pressure-free, fear-free setting, and those who participated could get some extra credit and bonus. And what my assistant did was to engage learners to do Kahoot interactive game for review. And the review has different types of questions such as vocabulary, key, expressions, structures, or some cultural components. And students also did poll everywhere. I believe that some of you have also tried poll everywhere and Kahoot. They are quite popular and commonly used in the United States. And students, brave about they rave about the afternoon interactive group activities. So I think that we did experiment this successfully. That made us so amazed. And next is about third enlightenment. The third enlightenment that we have gained after running several years of STARTALK Teacher program and student program is that we found that this is the key area that our teacher trainees can improve better and improve more. The key area is number 3. How effectively teachers can apply effective illustration strategies to generate quality input and output. And we feel that principle 3 is the area that needs greater improvement. If we look at Van Patten and Cadernal in 1993's framework, this slide shows a sketch of basic processes in a concession. To move from leftmost input to rightmost output takes 2 more steps, which are intake and developing system. However, intake and developing system are something very abstract. We have no way to touch, to feel it. It's something not that concrete, but how to convert the abstract thinking to concrete level of, of teaching practices. My program, created a program paradigm observation checklist, and we wanted to come up with tangible, measurable evidence and outcomes in this checklist and program sheet. And that means that our teacher participants consistently use this checklist to prepare for their online teaching, their lesson planning, and to do their teaching practicum online, and also to observe their peers' online teaching. And finally, to reflect on their online teaching at the end after they finish it. We found that teachers do not seem to have that much difficulty in using talking language and providing comprehensible input. The strategies that are listed here for making language comprehensible, including some strategies such as using body language, gesture, facial expressions, visual aids, real and concrete objects. We don't see great difficulty and a big challenge for teachers. Interestingly, the more we are more familiar with online teaching setting, the more we feel that actually body language, gesture, facial expressions, really visual aids are still, quite helpful for online teaching. There are some strategies that teachers can use to make their language input comprehensible, such as using language modification, simplification strategy, and creating contextual clues when they are teaching, such as photos and so many things. And before students do peer group work, a teacher needs to model, to demo how to do it. And also to come up with age-appropriate, level-appropriate language use, and level appropriate language use. In this regard and category strategy, we don't see that teachers were challenged that much. However, this slide shows the area where teachers got challenged the most. Okay. The previous slide shows creating comprehensible input, providing comprehensible input. This slide shows to help learners to generate productive language output. For strategy number 7, to conduct and do meaningful communicative drills, and number 8, to frequently invite students to respond to questions, either meaningful or communicatively. 7, 8 are fine, not that much challenging. But however, we found that number 9, to use appropriate error correction strategies, and number 10, to apply effective illustration techniques are the area that our teacher participants need to make more improvement. If they do 9 and 10 well, then they should be able to provide quality input flood, and that ultimately help learners to generate sentential level push output. My book has many more concrete examples and some dialogues that we transcribe from recorded videos. If you are interested, feel free to see my book. The fourth alignment we have learned is that technology is required, but insufficient for effective online teaching. There are so many, advanced technology tools and apps. However, we think that pedagogy and curriculum should go first, and technology is always secondary. That is to support the fulfillment of curriculum and pedagogical objectives and goals. I have talked to quite a number of instructional designers, and interestingly, they unanimously think that less is more. They highly recommend all language educators to stick to this less is more technology, strategy and model or golden rule. Yeah. The fifth alignment that we have learned is that we think and feel that it takes at least triple the time to create an online language course as it does to create a face-to-face in-person course. Last fall, at the right beginning of the term, I had a chance to have email exchanges with one professor in California, and I was puzzled why I couldn't, get her timely response, in 1 week. I did not get her response in 1 week. That's so weird. And then I asked her why, and finally, I got her response. No, that's her response. She explained to me why. That's what she wrote in her email. She wrote, "It has been crazy here with the first week of teaching, and I severely underestimated the pain of converting everything to online teaching." Well, she used the word that's quite strong, pain. It's not neutral. So she did experience a great deal of the pain. And now I could imagine that she probably did not start planning and preparing for her online teaching last summer. And she probably waited till the last minute to do her online teaching preparation. And I think she was not alone. There were a big percentage of teachers in different disciplines that also had the same feeling. But now, since we have coped with online teaching for almost 1 year, I think this pain is fading away, luckily and promisingly. Why does it take at least triple the time to create online language course as it does to create a face-to-face in-person course? There are so many things, because now to do online teaching preparation, educators need to do more work, such as thinking about what technology tools and apps I want to use during class and for flip learning and for review, and which online platform we need to choose. Before we decide anything about technology, we need to do pre-testing. And testing one time probably is not enough. Retesting it's better. It's not required. And also think about assessments. Now, in the past, students just hand out their homework by hands and to the teacher, but now all homework needs to be upload it to a server, to an LMS system. And student probably need to create picture file, and also teacher comment on something, and then the teacher also upload some picture file to LMS system. It takes much more time. It requires a big time investment. There are so many different things, that play into together and make online teaching preparation much more time consuming than face-to-face teaching. Also, individual tutorial sections. Online teaching require teachers to pay more attention and spend more time to take care of individual needs, so and so. Here, I like to share 5 recommendations with you for creating a successful online language course. To create a successful online language course needs more than 5, but I think 5 is enough for today's talk because less is more. All right, the first recommendation is I would highly recommend that we organize details for materials and instructional planning. Here we see one teacher trainee's reflection. She participated in our program in 2016. She wrote that the difference between mediocrity and is attention to detail. I couldn't agree with her more. I like this saying so much. And in the following presentation, I'd like to share with you 2 or 3 examples, very concrete, how as language instructors to do online teaching, we could do to pay attention and cope with more details to achieve the best learning outcome for students. The first example is what I just did 2 weeks ago. We talked about national disaster, and I put the video on the right. The video is about a news report on a sandstorm attacking Phoenix in Arizona. And on the left side, we see 5 focal questions, 5 comprehension questions. I like this design because before students watch the video, and when they are watching the video, they have very clear visual clues on the left side. These are the focal questions they need to comprehend the video content. Yeah, and I also like this slide. It's a very minor thing. It might look very tedious, but I think, if we skillfully, creatively use animation, effect, embedding PowerPoint, now that will make a big difference to facilitate students' information process. The first question now, and then answer the first question, ask students what attacked the Phoenix city, and the answer is sandstorm. How about visibility? Visibility gets lower. And what happened to the sky? The sky looks gray, and it's gray, not great. Number 4, why was the sandstorm coming? Because hot, storming wind came from Mexico. And what did the resident did? I think, again, it's not a big tweak. It's not something, difficult to do, but I think, we as online teachers, effective teacher, we want to plan for details beforehand in order to reduce learners' cognitive load. That's just one example. And the second example is, where can I find homework? Learners, students might have hard time to find their homework in the right place. And for online teaching, we don't want to create more frustration and anxiety for learners. So what I did was to put homework at 3 places so students can easily find it, even though they forget to find it something from 1 or 2 of the other places. This is what I is showed in PowerPoint slide, the very last slide for each day's PowerPoint file. Today's homework, number 1, number 2, and number 3. And in addition to listing the homework on PowerPoint slide that students can easily find from the LMS system, I also sent email reminder right after the end of class. So that's the second place where students can find their homework. And on the top of it, I also uploaded, copy and paste the homework and upload to the social media platform. This semester we use Discord, and students seem to be happy about it. So far, I haven't had any students that complain about missing homework, that told me that they couldn't find where was the homework. It seems very clear cut. Yeah. And the third example I'd like to share with you in terms of how to take care of good details, is well reflected in the design and layout of this PowerPoint slide. I'm sorry that I did not add English translation because there's no more space for me to do it. I don't want to give you, more, cognitive, information processing to increase your cognitive load. But basically, at the bottom you see for the various connectors that are used to connect a sequence of actions first, then, and finally. These characters are highlighted in red to catch learners' attention based on notice hypothesis. And they're involved 4 sequential actions. Here comes with the first one. And the teacher shows the picture first, but not the answer, not the characters. And then the teacher can pause a little bit and then invite learners to contribute their responses so they could guess, predict, and they can work together collaboratively. And then the answer is they line up. How to say line up in Chinese, 排队. And the second action, again, picture first. That's a plate and chopstick and fork. And then how to say that, and pause a little bit and inviting students to engage in discussion. And here's the answer. 拿餐盘、勺子跟筷子 to take plate, fork, and chopstick. And the third action, oh, we see Obama getting some food at the Chinese cafeteria. And what he's doing is to order this, 点餐. And then the last action is, oh, everything is ready. So everybody sit and enjoy the meal. That's 坐下吃饭. So I like this PowerPoint layout very much. And that is one example that our teacher participants created. That shows how they take care of details for PowerPoint slide design. And the second recommendation I'd like to share with you is to engage learners to create a thriving learning community. There are so many effective strategies that we can do. And today I'd like to share with you the second strategy to welcome students before day 1. Yeah. Before day 1, I already uploaded course information materials to the LMS system, like the majority or all of you did as a common practice. And then I created a welcome video myself so students can get connected with me as a person instructor. Through this video, they see me, see my face, they hear my voice. And we could also create this type of video. All the students do not see your face. They see culturally rich and linguistically rich photos, image, or videos to go with the caption in Chinese. And the third type of welcome video that we could think of or think about is make it humorous, interesting. I use Biteable. It's a free tool app to create this animation, the video, welcome video. So I think, you could consider students' interest and their learning styles or preferences to see what kind of video may be the best fit for your learners before day one. Yeah. And if you don't have time to create welcome videos, think about this. How about inviting your students to join a pre-class social hour? I put optional right here because I don't want to request them to do it because that's before day one. I wanted to create a fear and pressure-free setting. We ended up having 2/3 of students joining this pre-class social hour. There are so many good things about holding pre-class social hour for online course. You have chance to get to know your students, and students can learn from each other, to get to know from their peers, to know who you are, who I am. And you could also, as an instructor, see a little bit more about their individual characteristics. Shy, introvert, extrovert, are they socially well connected or tend to be quiet, and so on. When we conducted the pre-class social hour, we also did poll everywhere. I think it was quite welcomed by students. Yeah. And the third recommendation is to create authenticity. I found something quite refreshing to create authenticity in the online setting. I draw this pie, and I think that now we could do 3 ways to create authenticity in online setting. The first way is to create authentic context. The second thing is to use authentic materials. And the third way we can do it to enhance, create, and maximize authenticity is to create the process and meaning of negotiation so students can engage and spontaneously. If we create, let's say, a task such as asking a student to order dishes in a restaurant, then the restaurant itself is authentic context. And menu will be considered authentic materials. And the dialogue, interactions, and meaning of negotiation between a customer, a guest, and a waiter, waitress would signify the process of meaning negotiation. And authentic materials are updated, and they have the most recent content that reflects the social change. They are engaging, up to date, and motivating. There are so many good things, and then to use authentic materials. And I believe that I'm not alone. You probably would agree with me in this regard. There are several ways that you can create authentic content through, for example, photos, pictures, authentic materials. And also use videos that has very rich visual aids and also sound effects to attract learners' attention. And we can also creating authentic content through 3D, 360-degree virtual reality, and augmented reality. Well, for face-to-face teaching, if we want to use VR and AR, the student will hold their cell phone, or they wear goggles that's very expensive, costly, $400, $500, $600 VR studio. But now when we transition to online learning and teaching, we have no way to enjoy this luxury, no way to go to the studio. Then what we can do is to use the 3D video that could be easily searchable online in lieu of the very expensive and costly goggles. And this semester, I did come up with a list of 3D animated videos, and students enjoyed it so much. There are also some way they can create authentic context through using virtual background, using TBR, and that involves body movement. I think you are quite accustomed with using virtual background as long as you are using professional Zoom account. And here on this slide, you see fashion show on your right. I did have one high school teacher. They showed me and share her successful story with me. She come up with a fashion show task and asked her student to do it, and it was quite satisfactory. As long as you guided your students to make sure that they will adjust the webcam, the angle, the light, and they also measure before class the distance between the movable space and also their laptop. And on the left, you see how to make Chinese dumpling. One of my colleagues organized a Chinese Lunar New Year event online about 1 month ago. And she was so creative. She did something that was impossible, I thought. She made dumplings right in front of her computer, through the Zoom setting. And she also asked her students to do something that she did, follow what she did, to make a doll first, and also make the filling either vegetarian or with meat. It was quite amazing. Before that, I thought it was impossible to do cooking show in front of the camera, in front of the webcam and your laptop, but it worked and worked out so well. And creating authentic content could be through website and apps. Here we see Airbnb, we see a sea trip travel site. We also see a very popular app that all Chinese speakers use to decide which restaurant is the best and what dishes we can order, what's the highly rated specialty that we should taste in a particular restaurant. These are all authentic websites and apps that we can consider using for online teaching to create a task. And the last strategy or technique we can use to create authentic content is to connect learners' experiences to real life experiences. I like to use several PowerPoint slides and to share with you what our teacher trainees did for a lesson planning with the theme on visiting their host family in China. The learning goals are we want students to be able to sing a couple of lines of a popular Chinese song. We want students to be able to recognize some characters and lyrics in selected popular Chinese songs. And we want students also to be engaged in conversation about personal interests and songs. And to connect students' learning experiences with the real life world, our teachers created a scenario that everybody is going to participate in a Chinese bridge singing competition, and they are in Beijing now. Okay, and in order to be confident in their singing skills, they need to practice singing songs. And where to practice sing song? To go to karaoke store, to go to KTV, and we see an authentic Beijing map right here. And the teachers now created two options, two KTV sites for students to choose to see which one they prefer, either My Ledi or a One Shot. And then after students made a decision and express their preference, and then the teacher led the entire class to go to that particular KTV store and start practicing singing karaoke. And they request music and songs, and they have several songs they can choose from and start practicing in a very happy, relaxing atmosphere. And now everybody is on site. Everybody is at the competition Chinese bridge. Here, number 6 contestant from Bridges has just finished his singing. And then it's our turn to go on the stage to show our singing skills and talent. So our students are the last contestant. Give them applause. Welcome them to be on stage. And now everybody's curious about how about our performance. And we got the first place. Okay, since they are in Beijing and now as an American learner, they get first place, be the first winner, then that would definitely attract media attention. So then they are interviewed by the journalists. Yeah, I like this uni a lot. And I simply selected several now important slides to share with you. The entire lesson has more than 50 or 60 slides. But I think now by seeing this series of slides, you know how real life experience could be connected all together and come up with a very light, engaging, interesting lesson. The very last thing is creating authentic process of negotiation meeting. This is nothing new. As an educator in German, French, Spanish, Japanese, Chinese, we do this all the time to ask students to read an email and respond to the email. And in Chinese street market, foreigners are bargaining with the store owner. And in a restaurant, they order food, and debating is also a good example that involves frequent negotiation and meeting among learners. The fourth recommendation to share with you is cater to individual needs and implement differentiated instruction. This is a good example I want to share with you. What I did last semester was that I wanted to build relationship and also to offer individual tutorial sections with individual learners. Then at the end of each unit, after students finish the summative task, I invited each of them to meet with me one-on-one. And here you see my notes about things that they need to improve. Okay. And after that, I invited learners to have conversation with me to go through this area that they need to improve, including pronunciation, appropriate language use, phrases, or keywords, grammatical structures. After they practice with me, then I gave them the score. Okay. After they received the score, each individual learner wrote very short self-reflection. I think it worked very well. As I mentioned to you earlier, I think individual attention and individual interaction between instructor and teacher cannot be emphasized more for online teaching and learning. And here you see that when we as instructor give instructions to students to complete homework or certain tasks, I think we need to be cautious about providing more than two or at least two types of input. Here, student can see text to understand how to complete a certain textual instruction. And in addition to textual instruction, we also ask our teacher participant to record their video. So students, some are visual oriented, some are audio oriented. So we want to accommodate different learning styles and individual needs. The last recommendation is that we should assess, select, and test technology and have backup plans in mind all the time. Yeah. Well, we want to make sure that learners and instructors have sufficient time to get accustomed to new technology or new ways of technology and different usage of technology, and one at a time, but not more than one at a time. Yeah. Make sure we do testing before we implement that in our class. And technology, keep updating very fast. So make sure now we keep abreast of the newest development of a certain technology tool or app. And also make sure that the tool app that we decide to use is compatible with our laptop, with certain things that we want students to use. Tutorial sections and orientation are required. That's so important, because we don't want students to try on their own and increase their frustration level. Use some tools that we as instructors know well. Try to avoid things that you are not familiar with, just because they are new, they are updated. And also choose something that has less complexity rather than more complexity. Yeah. In the following slide, you see some different technology tools and apps. They are categorized by Dr. Gao. Here you see video conferencing platform, including Zoom, Google Meet, Blackboard, Microsoft Teams, and so on. And in the middle, we see 3 communicative modes, and the main functions are listed on your right. There are different technology tools to fulfill different pedagogical functions, and in exactly which communicative mode they are listed in my book. And I want to thank and give credit to Dr. Gao that co-authored with me to make this book possible. And finally, in terms of technology, make sure they always have a plan B. Sometimes technology is unpredictable. We want to make sure we have a backup plan at hand. For example, when something happens that goes beyond your expectation, we can use discussion board and Q&A to pose immediate needs or to immediately instruct students what to do next. And we can use email reminders on the right spot, and prepare to use a second collaboration platform, or use group chat to inform students right away, and always consider backup devices. Thank you so much for being so attentive, and for your time and for your presence.